Tonight at 11:35, Phil Collins in concert, now ITN.
From ITN News at 10 with John Suchet.
Charles and Camilla considering their next move. The desperate scramble for food in Quake City. Louise Woodward hears her legal ordeal is finally over. Chelsea await their greatest championship challenge. And homing in on the coldest barbecue on earth. Good evening. After last night's sensational public debut as a couple, Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles went their separate ways today. But while the Prince may have been on his own as he went about his official duties, most of the attention was still firmly focused on the night before. Ironically, what had been planned as a major media event was hit by a major snag. The Independent Television Commission unexpectedly ruled that moving pictures of the couple leaving the Ritz Hotel couldn't be shown in their original form because the flashing of so many cameras could trigger epileptic fits in some viewers. Our report includes a short sequence of those pictures which we have treated to reduce the effect of the flashes. Here's our royal correspondent, Nicholas Owen.
Love was in the air today when Prince Charles, out and about in Hertfordshire, was presented with a Valentine's Day mug.
That's very clever, very useful.
The feeling among commentators today was that Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles had gauged their going public well. It came just before midnight, the couple allowing a myriad of cameras to get pictures of them leaving London's Ritz Hotel together after a party. The morning after all the excitement, princely duties included being addressed by a robotic film prop at Elstree Studios.
Hello, Your Royal Highness. I'm delighted to meet you.
Impressive, perhaps, but no doubt His Royal Highness's mind must have strayed now and then to one tricky subject. Will he and Camilla marry one day?
The monarchy is our last great popular institution, and as such it rests on the consent and will and support of the people. So it is the people who have to decide, if they want to get married, whether it's translated into reality.
The people may eventually be happy, the church could be another matter.
Constitutionally, they have to persuade the Church of England that it would be possible for Prince Charles to remarry and become king. The Archbishop of Canterbury has already signalled that he'd be willing for that. There's a lot of feeling in the Church which is against remarriage, and that's what they've got to win.
It was 22 hours ago that Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles came together down these steps, across this pavement, and into their car. A short walk into the history books. Where that walk leads must depend on long-term public reaction to the decision to end all the pretense and let this relationship become public property. Nicholas Owen, News at 10, Central London.
Assuming this is the start of a more public role for Mrs. Parker Bowles, the question now is just how will she cope with the inevitably intense media attention? ITN's Andrea Catherwood reports on the woman whose relationship with Prince Charles looks set to become much less private.
Overnight, the presses rose, turning 15 seconds on the steps of the Ritz into history. Once rumours gathered pace that the couple would appear together here at the Ritz Hotel, royal watchers were out in force in a type of media interest not seen since the days of Diana, Princess of Wales. And all to get that one important picture that shows the charade is finally over. When that moment came, it was breaking news all over the world.
Prince Charles has apparently made the decision that it's safe to come out. Flashbulbs turn night into day.
But while the couple are now openly together, public opinion is still divided.
There's no doubt that older people in particular, who have long memories, they are very anti-Camilla. Younger people, I think, have a broader mind about it. They think, well, Prince Charles, he's the King of England, he could probably have had any woman he wanted, and in 28 years he's had 2 lovers, not too bad, really.
Camilla has known Charles for 27 years, but her family's royal connections go back generations. Camilla's great-grandmother, Alice Keppel, was the mistress of Edward VII, Charles's great-great-grandfather. Camilla's hobbies include gardening and, like Prince Charles, she paints watercolours. Unlike Charles, she smokes, especially while painting. Her favourite brand is Marlborough. Again, unlike Charles, she's said to be untidy and unfussy. They have pet names for one another. He is Fred, she is Gladys. But the public don't really know Camilla. Her only official role is patron of a charity where friends say she's warm but very private.
Everything remotely public that she's done for the National Osteoporosis Society is really what I persuaded her to do. When I asked her if she would become a patron of the society, she was very candid and said, "Do you really think it will do you any good?"
But with an increasingly visible role by Charles's side, photographers and camera crews are something Camilla is going to have to learn to live with. Andrea Catherwood, News at 10.
There were desperate scenes in the Colombian city of Armenia today as hundreds of people scrambled for food and supplies. Police fired live rounds and tear gas in an attempt to disperse the crowds who were angry at the slow distribution of aid since Monday's earthquake. From Armenia, here's our senior correspondent, Mark Austin.
Today in Armenia, the anger and frustration of the local population boiled over. As the relief operation the government here is bungling led to violence and chaos.
The army in Armenia is struggling to keep control. It's faced with a people desperate for help, but who now feel they've been let down by a government unable to cope with a catastrophe that left tens of thousands homeless and hungry. The trouble today was caused largely by gangs of youth exploiting the growing disillusionment, but looting was widespread, and for a time the security forces seemed unable or unwilling to stop it. Earlier at a Red Cross distribution centre, people told me that they'd been given nothing by the government. For hours they'd been waiting, thousands of people now desperate simply for the means to survive. Water, plastic sheeting, clothes, food, even coffins for their dead. At the front, a woman pleading for help with her daughter had fainted. The crowd, that had been queuing calmly, suddenly became angry. The waiting had gone on too long.
As you can see, this is a relief operation that's descended into chaos. There's growing anger amongst the people here, and it's getting out of control.
Within minutes, it had got out of control. People tearing at the fence, screaming at Red Cross workers to start handing out the supplies. A local nun pleads with the crowds to show restraint. But in Armenia, the time for restraint has passed. A couple of tear gas canisters couldn't hold them back. These are desperate people, and in desperation there is no dignity. What they wanted was here, and they were determined to have it.
I see. This is like a hell. It's like the people is taking everything. The people don't think that other people have is starving too.
The Red Cross workers could only stand back and watch as the orgy of looting continued. And it did continue for half an hour before armed police finally arrived to try and restore order. But the police of Armenia are not shooting their own people. There is sympathy for their plight at the hands of a government unable to get the relief operation working here. It's not the aid that's the problem, but it's the distribution of it that is proving so chaotic and haphazard. Colombia's president has visited the earthquake area and promised to improve things. He's also declared a state of emergency and is tonight sending more troops onto the streets of Armenia.
The government here knows that it will now have to crack down firmly if the scenes witnessed today are not to be repeated across the stricken region. Mark Austin, News at 10, Armenia, Colombia.
Tony Blair today vigorously defended his wait-and-see policy on the euro after challenges from leading pro-Europeans, including the former Labour leader Neil Kinnock. Mr. Blair, in Vienna, rejected calls to set a target time for Britain to join the single European currency. He insisted Britain wouldn't be pushed out, plucking a date into the air. The two sides in the Kosovo conflict were today told to make peace and make it soon, or face military intervention by NATO. The foreign ministers of 6 nations emerged from a meeting in London to demand that peace talks must start within a week and produce a deal within 3. On the ground, the bloodletting continues. This report by our diplomatic editor Robert Moore contains graphic images from the latest fighting.
The latest brutality in Kosovo came as diplomats were announcing their plans for a peace